My husband wants to marry a brothel woman as his wife. When discussing the divorce agreement, I thought I couldn't win against my mother-in-law, nor get custody of the children. But then my mother-in-law declared that both the children and she would come with me. Everyone was speechless. Later, my mother-in-law fawned over me and asked, "Daughter-in-law, you see, my eldest son is no good, but I still have a second son, who's quite handsome too. My husband, Daniel Zhou, insists on marrying a brothel woman as his wife. Not even 1,000 oxen could pull him back from this decision. I'm deeply troubled. It's not that I'm particularly fond of him, but I've given birth to 2 sons in the Zhou family, Jean Dan and Tai Dan. These days, divorce agreements exist, but children usually end up with the husband's family. Sons are always fought over, and daughters rarely stay with their mothers. But I could never abandon my 2 children. I carried them for 10 months, full of anticipation, and raised them with all my heart. Besides, if we divorce, I don't plan to remarry. Men are all the same. Getting married means serving an entire family. I refuse to do that again. Perfect timing. With the divorce agreement, I'll make a scene, snatch the children, and establish a female-headed household. I have my own skills. I can support the kids and myself. It'll be tough at first, but once the children are older, things will get better. With my mind made up, I began plotting how to take on the entire Zhou family. Daniel Zhou isn't much of a threat. His mind is completely captivated by that woman Peony, who's even carrying his child. Daniel Zhou pays little attention to his 2 sons. Once, he took Jean Dan to town, but got so absorbed watching a chess game that he lost him. Luckily, Jean Dan was clever. When he couldn't find anyone, he hid under a stall and only came out when he saw me searching. Jean Dan was just 4 years old then. He took Tai Dan to the river, but didn't hold his hand, and Tai Dan fell in, nearly drowning. Fortunately, Aaron Zhou, the second son of the Zhou family, jumped in and saved Tai Dan. When Jean Dan was just a newborn, I left him with Daniel Zhou while I went to cook. He ended up falling asleep, and Jean Dan's face got buried under his quilt, nearly suffocating the poor child. I've lost count of how many times I've wanted to just end him over this. We actually got along quite well when we were newlyweds, but after having the baby, my resentment toward him just kept growing. He's so irresponsible. Even his younger brother-in-law, Aaron Zhou, shows more care for our child than he does. It's not like I just found out today about him and Peony. He stayed out all night multiple times before, always claiming he was at a friend's place. The scent of perfume on him was strong enough to blast through my nostrils. Maybe splitting up is for the best. I've been wanting to open a steam bun shop for ages anyway. He always opposed it, saying it's improper for a woman to be out working in public. Free from him, I'm sure I can make a success of myself. The biggest hurdle in getting a divorce agreement is my mother-in-law, a fierce, domineering old woman who's stubborn as a mule, and, to make matters worse, I can't even overpower her.
Ever since I married into this family,
I've never escaped her tight control. Any money I tried to pocket from shopping, she'd always find and take it back. I tried to steal food from home to sell outside, but she caught me and gave me a beating. Yes, ever since I found out Daniel Zhou had another woman outside, I wanted to take money from home to plan for the future of myself and my 2 sons. I even tried to pry open my mother-in-law's chest. All right, call it stealing, but I had no other choice. I couldn't go back to my parents' home. If I did, I'd just be sold off again. When I married into the Zhou family, my parents demanded an exorbitant bride price of 20 taels. You should know, in our countryside, even 5 taels is considered a high bride price. My mother-in-law was furious at the time and cursed my parents out. She even threatened to call off the marriage. I was terrified back then, because, compared to the matches my parents had found for me, cripples, blind men, wife-beaters, or men in their 70s and 80s, the Zhou family was a decent household. Besides, it was the Zhou family who came to propose the marriage themselves. Although Daniel Zhou is a bit of a scoundrel, he's handsome and around my age. The Zhou family lived quite comfortably. with a spacious brick, tiled house, 15 acres of fertile land, and a scholar in the household. That scholar was my younger brother. In law, if he passed the imperial exam someday, the whole family would benefit. With such favorable conditions, I truly wanted to marry into this family. But later, she still grumbled and returned the bride price to my parents. She made it clear, though, I was bought, not married off. There would be no ties to my birth family from then on. Over the years, my parents tried to take advantage several times, but never succeeded. Each time, my mother-in-law drove them out. No wonder I could never outmatch my mother-in-law. She was a widow who raised 2 sons alone and maintained the family's wealth. Without some fierceness, how could she have managed? Just thinking about her makes my scalp prickle. My younger brother-in-law hasn't married yet, so my mother-in-law only has the 2 grandsons I gave birth to. She treats my sons exceptionally well. For that, I'm truly grateful to her. When I resented Daniel Zhou before, remembering how good my mother-in-law was to her 2 sons, I comforted myself that at least she was decent. Now, with the divorce agreement, my mother-in-law absolutely refuses to give me my sons. After Daniel Zhou mentioned the divorce agreement, he got beaten several times by his mother. He's dead set on making a home for Peony. Yesterday, my mother-in-law hit Daniel Zhou quite fiercely. His forehead was bleeding, and then he ran off. This morning, with dark circles under my eyes, I was in the kitchen making breakfast. My mother-in-law came in and asked me, Daniel wants a divorce agreement. What are your thoughts? I put rice in the pot to cook congee. These days, not many families have plain congee every morning. My mother-in-law only has me make it for my 2 sons, saying it's nourishing. Summoning my courage, I looked into her eyes and said, Mother, I want the divorce agreement. Daniel's heart isn't with me anymore. Dragging this out will only bring more turmoil to the household. Contrary to my expectations, my mother-in-law didn't get angry. What about the children? I said, I want to take the children with me. Since mother-in-law asked for my thoughts that morning, she hasn't said anything, and Daniel Zhou hasn't come home for several days. The matter was put on hold. These past few days, I've been thinking about what I would do after the divorce agreement. I want to sell steamed buns. Everyone who's tried my steamed buns says they're excellent. If flour and meat weren't so expensive, even my picky mother-in-law would want me to make them every day. But starting a business requires capital. Flour and meat are the biggest expenses. I've calculated that I need at least 500 copper coins to get started. I don't have a single copper coin to my name. Where I would live is also a problem. Would I have to take my son to live in a thatched hut? Convincing the village head to register me as a female-headed household is another challenge. I clearly realize that I might not be able to take my son with me right away. Only after I earn money, have a house, and can provide a better life than the Zhou family will I have a chance to take my child. Thinking of this breaks my heart. If I leave and their stepmother comes, even if mother-in-law cares for them at first, but at his father and stepmother's place, he'll surely suffer a great deal. If Peony gives birth, my mother-in-law might not dote on my 2 sons as much anymore. I plan to pry open my mother-in-law's chest again tonight. I'll go in the early hours when everyone is deep asleep. Only by getting the money, first can I take the children away sooner. But my plan hasn't been put into action yet. Daniel Zhou returned again. The scar on his forehead was still there. With Peony following closely beside him, Daniel Zhou stole and sold the family ox, then combined the money with Peony's savings to buy her freedom. Good heavens, because he secretly sold the ox. My mother-in-law later guarded the livestock like her own eyeballs. I had no chance to sell the pig. I could only try to sell grain, but got caught in the end. My mother-in-law glared, full of vigor. You dare show your face here? Daniel Zhou shielded Peony behind him and said, Mother, today I must secure a divorce agreement. My mother-in-law seemed to suddenly deflate. She looked at Daniel Zhou and said with deep sorrow, Son, I gave birth to you, raised you, and cherished you like the apple of my eye. When you were sick as a child, I wished I could take your place. I only want what's best for you. Your wife is wonderful, and you have 2 sons. Why would you destroy this family for a courtesan? Mother-in-law's tears fell freely, stunning all of us. This old lady is usually more spirited than a wild horse, so her sudden vulnerability certainly shocked us. Daniel Zhou was also moved. He knelt on the ground and pleaded, I truly love Peony. Mother, please grant me your blessing. Before any of us could react, Mother-in-law slapped Daniel Zhou hard across the face. Her expression instantly shifted as she scolded. How did I give birth to such a rotten scoundrel? Have you lost your mind? I warned you not to throw yourself into that pit. You'll regret it someday. I should have birthed a pig instead of you. Marrying a courtesan? You'll disgrace 18 generations of ancestors. You won't be able to hold your head up in this village ever again. Mother-in-law cursed a while, then spat. Fine words can't save a doomed soul. Daniel Zhou, remember, I've warned you repeatedly, beaten and scolded you too. You're the one who wants the divorce agreement. If you regret it later, don't blame me for not stopping you. Blood trickled from Daniel Zhou's mouth. He nodded earnestly, saying he'd never regret it. I spit on that scumbag. Before, when we were intimate, he vowed to treat me well forever. I was actually moved and believed it then. And what happened? Mother-in-law will settle our dispute first. I already know the outcome. They're all family, bound by blood. I'm just an outsider. They'll surely make me take my clothes and leave. They won't give me anything else. But I've decided, if they dare bully me like this, we'll all die together. All these years at home, I've toiled without complaint, working both inside and outside the house. The money from selling grain and livestock every year was always managed by mother-in-law. Not a single penny was allocated. Just as I was fuming with indignation, my mother-in-law spoke up. Jean Dan's mother and father are signing a divorce agreement, so we're dividing the household today. I declared, I must take my son with me. Jean Dan and Tai Dan, aged 5 and 3 respectively, understood what was happening in the family. Both clung tightly to me, as if sensing something. They wept silently with tears streaming down. Mother-in-law asked Daniel Zhou, what is your opinion? Daniel Zhou said, the boys carry the Zhou family bloodline. They cannot be taken away by her. Mother-in-law nodded. Indeed, the children belong to the Zhou family. Where would you take them? Just as I was about to flip the table, Mother-in-law's voice rang out again. Therefore, both grandsons will go with Jean Dan's mother, and I will go with her too. Me. Everyone. Under our astonished gazes, she continued, second son, you're older now, live on your own, but mother will still let you stay in the house. Daniel Zhou, you can just move out and live separately. My mother-in-law said to me, who was already stunned, from now on, you are my daughter, and you still call me mother. All right, go pack Daniel Zhou's clothes. Daniel Zhou was dumbfounded. No one wouldn't be dumbfounded. After all, which family divorces, kicks the son out, and keeps the daughter-in-law? My mother-in-law nudged me, whether it's real or not. As long as I can get the divorce agreement, that's all that matters. I can be with my 2 sons and have a place to live. As for whether it's a stalling tactic or if they want Daniel Zhou to enjoy the blessings of 2 women, I don't care. With the divorce agreement, I am free, and I can use this time to earn money and figure out how to establish a female-headed household. I hurried to the room and packed Daniel Zhou's clothes. Anticipating the divorce earlier, I had already packed my own clothes to avoid a frantic rush when leaving. With so few clothes and little money to begin with, losing any would be disastrous. Outside, Daniel Zhou was still roaring. Mother, using this method to force me is useless. I truly love Peony. Even if you drive me out, I will be with her. Mother, have you gone mad? What's so great about Luna Lu? Weren't you always nitpicking and finding fault with her before? Are you even my real mother? Do you care more about having a grandson than your own son? Peony is also carrying your grandchild. Mother-in-law spat at this moment. If you want to be a cuckold, I won't. My grandson won't come from a prostitute's belly. It would make people laugh their heads off. Don't think you're so important. I'm telling you, I have more than just you as a son. I still have my precious grandsons, Jean Dan and Tai Dan. I don't need a brainless son like you. Get out of here. Take your sweetheart and go. I quickly threw Daniel Zhou's bundle to him. Seeing he couldn't win against his mother, Daniel Zhou turned his anger on me. Luna Lu, did you use some trick? What's the point of shamelessly clinging to our family? I don't want to be with you anymore. Do you really think my mother genuinely wanted you to stay? It was just to make me come back. I'm telling you, I will never give in. I spat at him. Don't flatter yourself. Don't you know what you're really like? Do you think I want to live with you? Rest assured, once the divorce agreement is signed, I'll have nothing to do with your Zhou family. But my son is mine. He must come with me. A farm boy like you. Yet you go to brothels. You've got no real skills. Just putting on airs like a spoiled brat. Our son would only learn bad habits from you. And you even married a prostitute. I spit on that. He'll be looked down on in the future. Daniel Zhou roared. Peony ended up in the brothel against her will. Why do you always attack her with her painful past? My mother. And Law chimed in. Right, if she had no choice. What about Luna Lu? She's given you 2 children. You were already married. She could have found anyone else. But she came to you. Have either of you ever considered how much better off Luna Lu would be if she left this family? That last sentence stunned me. She must have misspoken. If I left this place, I should be the one struggling, shouldn't I? The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that Daniel Zhou and Peony were nothing but trouble. These days, some women have nowhere to go after divorce. Some sell themselves into servitude as maids. Some end up in brothels. And some choose death. They're leaving me no way out. After arguing for what felt like ages, the crowd still marched en masse to the village head's house. Everyone in the village knows about our family's affairs. As we walked, people kept asking questions and curiously tagging along. The crowd just kept growing. Hey, Daniel's mom, swapping daughters. In law, are we, gotta say, Daniel's new wife. Ha ha ha. I've actually slept with her before. Daniel Zhou lunged to hit him, but his mother, in law, snapped. Focus on the matter at hand. Then she dragged him forcefully to the village head's house. The chatter from the crowd never let up along the way. Oh dear, what's Daniel's wife going to do now? I heard her family sells their daughters. Once she's divorced, they'll probably just sell her again. Luna Lu's not bad, pretty and hardworking. Once she's back, I'll propose a match for my eldest son. Ha ha ha. You don't mind that she's been married before. So, what if she's been married before? It proves she's experienced in running a household. Besides, she's had 2 children, both sons. Proof she can bear heirs. What a fine wife she'd make. The mother, in law, glared. Are you dreaming? With your son's stubby pumpkin look, how could he ever match Luna Lu? I quickly added, I'm not picky, as long as it's not someone like Daniel Zhou. Everyone. The village head was startled to see so many people gathered. The village head was aware of our family's dispute over the divorce agreement. He sighed heavily and said to me, Luna Lu, I know about your family troubles. After the divorce, where will you go? It's hard for a woman alone, especially with 2 children. He glanced at Daniel Zhou and added, Look, though Daniel is a scoundrel, he's clutching your bundle tightly. Clearly, he doesn't want you to leave. You'll never find someone so devoted again. Daniel Zhou stiffened his neck. Uncle Village Head, this bundle is mine. The village head asked, puzzled, why are you holding a bundle? Daniel Zhou replied, I'm moving out to live on my own. The village head looked enlightened and said to me, see, he's even willing to move out on his own just to give you a place to stay. How good is that to you, mother? In law, brother village head, no more reasoning. It's me who doesn't want my son. Just process their divorce agreement. From now on, they can marry others freely, with no ties between them. I've said all I need to say. The village head scratched his ear and asked, Sister, what do you mean? Your son is getting divorced, and you want the daughter. In law, but not your own son? The crowd immediately erupted in uproar. Daju's mother has gone mad. How terrible must Daju be for his own mother to abandon him? He wants to marry a prostitute and bring her home. He'll have no face to meet our ancestors when he goes to the fields. Daju is a real man. Even if his mother disowns him, he'll still marry that prostitute. What will happen to Daju's mother if Luna Lu remarries? Will she follow her and remarry too? Ha ha ha. Then Luna Lu's dowry would include 2 sons and a mother. In law, that'd be a first in the whole region. Then I'll take her. Daju's mother is capable. She's great both at home and in the fields. If I were Daniel, I'd be secretly thrilled. With such a capable mother and wife managing the household. Living better than most of us. Yet he insists on throwing it all away. How vulgar. Daniel says he's found true love. Ha! A prostitute's love. My mother, in law, declared, yes, village head, my 2 grandsons and I will stay with Luna Lu. My second son will live separately, and the eldest can go his own way. This house was built with my hard-earned money. Luna, the second son, and I will remain here, though we ought to give Daniel something from the family assets. He already stole and sold the ox, so consider that his share. The village head's expression went blank for a moment. Then he asked Daniel Zhou, do you have any objections? Daniel Zhou, face swollen and red. Would my opinion even matter? The village head understood perfectly. He turned to me. Does your opinion matter? I shook my head. No, this is my mother. In law's decision, the village head nodded and said, in matters of divorce, the parents' decree is sufficient. You are hereby divorced. Successfully obtained the divorce agreement. Daniel Zhou and I are no longer related. Neither he nor Peony had any money. They went to the thatched hut I had originally intended to live in, returning to my mother. In law's house, I felt strange. What should I do from now on? For a moment, I was at a loss. Would life be the same as before, except that Daniel Zhou wouldn't be coming back? When it was time for lunch, I went to cook. Jean Dan and Tai Dan followed me to the kitchen to help, both tending the fire for me. Jean Dan asked me, Mother, do I not have a father anymore? Tai Dan asked innocently, isn't father studying? It's younger brother, in-law Aaron Zhou, who's studying. Daniel Zhou had also attended the private school in the past, but he was foolish and later dropped out, staying home to farm. Back then, my mother, in-law, even beat him with a stick to force him to school, but he stubbornly refused to go. What a fool. Studying meant no hard labor, while farming was exhausting. He actually didn't want a better life. I looked at my 2 sons with concern, truly hoping they wouldn't turn out like their father. Tai Dan was only 3 years old, and he always called Aaron Zhou dad. Although Aaron Zhou usually studied and attended school, he was very patient with the children, playing with them and teaching them to read and write whenever he had time. He would even save his own spending money to buy them candy. So Tai Dan thought Aaron Zhou was his father. Jean Dan scoffed. Silly, the one who studies is our uncle. Tai Dan's eyes were filled with innocent confusion as he asked me, Mom, is that true? I nodded. Then who is my dad? Jean Dan said, the one grandma kicked out of the house today. Tai Dan let out an indifferent oh and said, Grandma gave me an egg this morning. He still spoke without much logic, mentioning whatever came to mind. Mother, in-law often gave them eggs to eat. The adults didn't get any. Younger brother, in-law used to get them occasionally because mother, in-law thought studying tired his brain and he needed nourishment. The other 3 adults never got any because mother, in-law thought it would be a waste on us. But the younger brother, in-law would give his eggs to the 2 children. He said he was an adult and didn't need the extra nutrition. Eggs were precious things after all. They could be saved up and sold for money. They could also be hatched into chicks. Later, the mother, in-law stopped giving eggs to the younger brother. In-law, whenever my 2 sons had something delicious, they would always share it with me. Each time, I would symbolically take a small bite. Jean Dan asked me, will I be laughed at by others? I nodded, looking at him seriously across the stove. Being laughed at is unavoidable, but don't be afraid. You didn't do anything wrong. Your father did. As long as we endure this, it will pass. If anyone laughs at you, come back and tell your grandmother, and I'll march right over to give them a piece of my mind. The mother, in-law's booming voice rang out. I have to say, though my mother, Law is fierce, and I can't get the better of her. She's fiercely protective of her own. That made me feel very secure. Meals at home remained the same. Everyone was a bit quiet. After a long pause, my mother-in-law said to me, Jean, Dan's mother, since you sell steam buns, you should keep doing that from now on. Take the money from me. I looked at my mother-in-law in pleasant surprise. She actually smiled at me and added, Don't worry, we're family now too. When I said I'd follow you, I meant I want to bring my 2 grandsons along. A woman on her own. Well, you manage just fine, but with my help, you won't have to struggle as much. I can also look after the children. I suddenly felt like crying. Even my own mother only ever calculated how much money I could fetch. She never once considered whether I was struggling or not. Yet my mother-in-law actually cared about my well-being. We acted without delay. That very afternoon, my mother-in-law and I went to town and bought the necessary tools and ingredients for tiers of steamers, along with flour, pork, seasonings, and so on. I felt full of confidence, eagerly anticipating my business venture. Jean Dan and Tai Dan were also excited, buzzing around me. I felt absolutely wonderful. I got up early the next morning to knead the dough and prepare the fillings. I made both meat and vegetable steam buns. Meat buns cost 2 copper coins each. Vegetable buns cost 1 copper coin each. My mother-in-law also got up to help me. We worked efficiently together, wrapping and steaming the buns. By the time the buns were ready, the sky was just beginning to lighten. Breakfast was quite hearty. 1 meat bun and 1 vegetable bun for the adults, along with a bowl of porridge. Jean Dan had 2 meat buns and a bowl of porridge, while Tai Dan could only manage 1 meat bun and a bowl of porridge. We all ate until our mouths were greasy, and we were completely satisfied. Tai Dan said foolishly, Mom, life without Dad is pretty good. Huh. Me. I glanced secretly at my mother-in-law, who pretended not to hear, and said to Tai Dan, Hurry up and eat. After you finish, go back to sleep. When you wake up, come with Grandma to cut grass. Tai Dan happily replied, Okay, Grandma. My mother-in-law smiled affectionately at Tai Dan. She truly dotes on these 2 children. Her eyes are full of love, and it feels like ever since mother-in-law had that high fever last time, she's changed quite a bit after waking up. She used to be good to Jean Dan and Tai Dan too, but not to that extent. Now she's so good it's as if they were her own children. She's been much nicer to me as well, sometimes even boiling an egg for me, saying I need to nourish myself too. The way she looks at me is also full of affection and seems thoughtful. It's a bit strange, but I don't overthink it. The situation is favorable for me now, so why bother pondering too much? Younger brother-in-law is going to school, with Jean Dan and Tai Dan at home and not feeling at ease. Mother-in-law stays to watch the children and also has to handle the household chores. I prepare to carry the round buckets, filled with boiling water, with steamers placed on top. This is to keep the steam buns from getting cold. There's no other way. Since we're not making much money yet, we have to save where we can. Just as I was about to carry them myself, younger brother-in-law quickly said, Sister-in-law, let me do it. I hurriedly replied, No need. You're a scholar. You shouldn't be doing this kind of work. Without another word, my younger brother-in-law took the carrying pole from me and handed me his book bag, saying, Sister-in-law, please carry this for me. I had no choice. It wouldn't be proper for us to wrestle over it. I have to say, my younger brother-in-law is quite handsome, tall and well built, with a refined and gentle demeanor. What's more, he's observant and often thoughtful in taking care of us family members. He's also quite strong. He walked ahead, and I followed behind. Our village isn't far from town, about the time it takes 2 incense sticks to burn. We just need to cross 1 hill and then take a short path to get there. We walked quickly and in silence. Once we reached town, my younger brother-in-law delivered the steamed buns to the spot I had in mind, then took his book bag and headed to school. I began selling the steamed buns. They sold quite well. The town was bustling with people, and my steamed buns were fragrant and delicious. In less than a morning, All 4 steamers worth of buns were sold out. We had calculated earlier that, after selling out and not counting costs like the steamers, just factoring in the expenses for flour, meat, and vegetables, we could make a profit of 160 copper coins. What a huge profit, carrying the empty buckets on a pole. I hurried home excitedly. Mother-in-law, Dan had just returned from cutting grass. Mother-in-law quickly asked. Business went well, I nodded, happily replying. Sold out completely, Dan gasped. But I still wanted to eat some. We all burst into laughter. And so the business took off. Everything went smoothly, except for when Daniel Zhou went crazy looking for me. Luna Lu, why are you out here flaunting yourself in public? You're shaming the whole family. I frowned. I had just finished selling steam buns, entered the village, and was heading home. Suddenly, Daniel Zhou jumped out from the bushes nearby. He gave me quite a scare. Daniel Zhou, are you insane? We've signed the divorce agreement. What I do is none of your business. What divorce agreement? That was just for show. My mother even let you stay in the house for my sake. So, why are you still out here making a spectacle of yourself? What are you talking about? Daniel Zhou said. Did you really think my mother would choose you over me? This is just her delaying tactic, waiting for me to change my mind and continue living with you. Though I'll never agree. You're part of our Zhou family. You can't go out and disgrace us. In your dreams, I'd never keep living with you. You useless fool. You've made my son the laughingstock of other children. I ignored Daniel Zhou, but he followed me all the way home. My mother-in-law was feeding the chickens, a bamboo basket beside her holding a few eggs, freshly collected, still smeared with chicken droppings. She rolled her eyes at Daniel Zhou. What are you doing here? Mom, tell Lu, she's not allowed to go out and show her face anymore. What kind of state is she in? Doing business every day. It's utterly shameful. My mother-in-law scolded. You abandoned your wife and child for a prostitute without fearing disgrace. Yet her honest business shames you? Get out. I have no son as foolish as you. Daniel Zhou pressed his lips together, then finally said, after a long pause, Mother, Peony is pregnant. We have no money or grain now. We're tired of eating wild vegetables. Please give us some grain and eggs. Mother-in-law instantly hid the basket of eggs behind her back, exclaiming, What grain do I have? What sin have I? An old woman, committed to deserve this? Mother-in-law slapped her thigh and began to wail and chant. This old woman worked so hard to raise a child, and now, for the sake of a woman, he's abandoned his wife, his child, and even his old mother. Now, he comes back to take my grain. What sin have I committed to give birth to this wretched thing? Heaven above, strike me dead. More and more onlookers gathered, all criticizing Daniel Zhou. Daniel, you're in the wrong here. How can you ask your mother for grain? It's your turn to provide for her. Daniel, your mother has had a hard life. Daniel, has your conscience been eaten by dogs? Amid the chorus of voices, Daniel Zhou turned and fled. I spat in disgust. You can't even feed yourselves, yet you meddle in my affairs. But Daniel Zhou stuck to me like a plaster. He often stopped me on the road, telling me to quit my business. Later, he directly asked me for money, saying he and Peony had eaten wild vegetables for too long and needed to buy some rice and meat. Luna Lu, you can't be so selfish and cruel. Peony is carrying my child, and you're their elder aunt. What's wrong with giving some money for food? I've had it. He firmly believes I'm waiting for him to come back and live together. He thinks if he returns, I'll be overjoyed with gratitude, and that my current attitude is just playing hard to get. I'm tired of arguing with him, no matter how much I say. He's convinced he's right. This time, Daniel Zhou refused to leave without getting money. He even tried to snatch my money pouch. I struck his forehead hard with a carrying pole. He cried out in pain, and I quickly ran away. Halfway, I bumped into someone. Looking up, it was my pale-faced younger brother-in-law. He'd been running a high fever these past 2 days. That's why he hadn't gone to school. He studied me and asked, Sister-in-law, why are you so flustered? Did something happen? Catching my breath, I explained. Daniel Zhou just tried to rob me. I hit him with a carrying pole and ran. My steamer baskets and buckets are still left there. I'll go retrieve them for you. No need. You go attend to your work. I'll go speak with mother. In law, I must have mother. In law, teach Daniel Zhou a lesson. I actually came to fetch you. When I saw you hadn't returned, I came out to check. Younger brother. In law is truly a good man. I was deeply moved, but his recovery is slow and fragile. How could I trouble him? As we were politely refusing each other, Daniel Zhou arrived carrying my buckets and steamer baskets on a shoulder pole. Seeing us, he snorted. What are you staring at? These are mine too. Leaving them outside, just let strangers take advantage. He slammed the buckets down and said, Luna Lu, I'll say it again. Give me the money. The child will still call you Annie someday. I spit. I've said it 100 times. It has nothing to do with me. We're divorced by agreement. You're living in our house, and you claim to be divorced? Who would believe that? You just don't understand plain talk. Once I've earned enough money, I'll go to the village head and register as a female, headed household. I'm also going to buy a house in town, move to live in town. I never want to see Daniel Zhou again. Luckily, now I get to keep all the money from selling steam buns every day. Brother, I believe you. Just stop bothering sister. In law, she wakes up before dawn every day to knead dough and make buns. It's exhausting, whatever it is. Wait until she's had some rest back home. Daniel Zhou stiffened his neck and said, Fine, I'll stop if you give me 20 copper coins. I know mom gave you some money for emergencies. The younger brother, in law, pursed his lips but replied, Then come back with me to get it. Just don't upset mom anymore. And stop causing trouble for sister. In law, you call her sister. In law, so how is it causing trouble if I talk to her? Younger brother. In law, then I won't call her that. Let's go. Yeah, we're heading home. Yeah, I got goosebumps all over. But to get Daniel Zhou to leave, I didn't say anything. So I said, Okay, Nunio, my younger brother. In law was clearly taken aback. I smiled at him. He snapped out of it and replied cheerfully, me. He carried my shoulder pole, and we walked ahead, while Daniel Zhou still followed behind. He said, Stop pretending in front of me. Mom put you up to this to force me back, right? Unless she accepts Peony. I won't return. Luna, Luke can be the concubine. Peony must be the wife. That's non-negotiable. I scoffed. If I had my mother, in law's strength, I'd slap him flying. Back home, my mother, in law, was chopping pig feed. The household raised pigs, chickens, and ducks. Feeding these animals daily was a major chore. The family's relative prosperity owed much to these livestock. At the sight of my mother, in law, my eyes welled up, and I grew sorrowful. My mother, in law, hurriedly asked, Did someone bully you in town? My younger brother, in law, spoke up. It was Big Brother. He tried to take his money and said he'd only come back if he could bring Peony along, making Yaya his concubine. Yaya, mother, in law's face was full of confusion, as if asking, Do we have someone named Yaya in our family? Then she realized it was referring to me. Her expression became rather complicated. Mother, in law, sneered. He's still waiting for me to beg him to come back. Just wait. I earn more and more money. I pay back the money I owed mother, in law, and still had plenty left for myself. I said to mother, in law, Mother, I want to register as a female, headed household. I carefully watched her expression, afraid she would disagree. First, establish the female, headed household, then buy a courtyard with a shop in the city. But that would require saving for quite a while. This is the plan for the future. To my surprise, mother, in law, agreed immediately, saying, Good, I'll go with you to talk to the village head. The village head looked at us with a complicated expression and said, Are you really going through with the divorce agreement? I thought it was just for show. We really are going through with the divorce agreement. Just because I still lived with the Zhou family, no one believed mother. In law's story about dividing the household, everyone thought I was waiting for Daniel Zhou to change his mind. The village head accompanied us to the county office to complete the formalities, and I gave him a cove pork as thanks. Back home, my mother, in law, asked me, Are you still short on silver? I let out a puzzle, she said. You must be thinking of buying a courtyard house in the city. I nodded blankly. My mother-in-law is amazing. Does she have the gift of foresight? Come with me. I followed her into the house. I watched her open the cabinet door, rummage inside for a long while, and pull out a bag of silver for me. Count it yourself. If it's not enough, I'll sell 2 pigs. Looking at the money pouch in her hand, I suddenly felt my eyes grow moist. I never expected her to take out her own money. My mother-in-law guards money very tightly. She watches over us as if we were thieves. Every time we sold grain or livestock, she wouldn't even let us glance at the money. Now she's actually willing to give me money to buy a courtyard house. Seeing I wouldn't take it, she stuffed it into my arms and said, I'm not without my own selfish motives. I know you're still young, and it's unfair to ask you not to remarry, but I can't bear the thought of you taking my 2 grandsons with you if you do. All I ask is that if you ever remarry, leave the boys with me. You can visit them any time. The courtyard you want to buy, put the deed in the grandchildren's names. I quickly replied, I don't want to remarry. If I ended up with another Daniel Zhou, that'd be more trouble than it's worth. Remembering Daniel Zhou was her son, I added, not that he was without merits. Ordinary as he was, he had his confidence, and that was something. Mother-in-law curled her lip. He's a lost cause. But thankfully, I still have another son and 2 grandsons. Enough of that. Tomorrow we'll go to the county town and get the house settled. We discussed further. Since we're buying a house in the county town, younger brother-in-law could live there too, saving him the back and forth commute and giving him more time to study. Younger brother-in-law is about to take the imperial examination for Shotsai. Jean Dan's old enough now to start school, and it'd be closer there. Having him with younger brother-in-law means he can keep an eye on him and offer some guidance. Tai Dan is too young, and I'm afraid I won't be able to manage taking him to the city. So he'll stay in the village with mother-in-law. Mother-in-law thinks we shouldn't sell off all the poultry at once, and someone needs to look after the house. So she'll stay for now. Once I get the business going in the county town and need help, and we have some savings, she'll come to assist and take care of both children. I have to say, having mother-in-law as a support makes me feel much more at ease. The children are by my side, there's help available, and mother-in-law dotes on them so much. The whole family went together to look at houses in the city. Younger brother-in-law and the 2 children came along too. On the way, we ran into Daniel Zhou supporting Peony, who had a large belly. They were also carrying luggage. When Daniel Zhou saw us, his face was full of grievance and resentment. He choked out, Mother, I admit I was wrong. I'm coming back now. Wearing an expression that suggested we had finally gotten our way, and he was utterly wronged. Me, mother-in-law, younger brother-in-law, Jean Dan, Dad, Tai Dan, Uncle, Daniel Zhou. Mother-in-law said, I had no idea you'd gone deaf. Daniel Zhou, Mother, Peony must come back with me. She'll be the first wife. And Luna, Lou the second. Me, younger brother-in-law, brother, yeah, isn't your wife anymore. Mother-in-law, there's no place for you here. You're grown with children of your own. Live your own life. I'm old and just want some peace in my remaining days. Daniel Zhou compromised. What if they're both equal wives? Mother-in-law turned and walked away with us. Daniel Zhou compromised again. Peony can be a concubine, but Lou mustn't mistreat her. Me, Tai Dan, Uncle, come visit us often. Tai Dan was quite the hospitable one. Buying a house in town went surprisingly smoothly. We viewed 3 properties and finally bought one that met all our needs. Then we went to the magistrate's office to draft the deed. It was registered under Jean Dan and Tai Dan's names. Younger brother-in-law asked, why isn't it under Yeya's name? Isn't this for her business? Mother-in-law said, if she remarries in the future, I'll live in this house with my 2 grandsons. It'll be convenient for her to visit the children. Younger brother-in-law gave an acknowledging, oh, I've already decided I won't remarry. I have 2 sons now. Raising them well is more important than anything else. I plan to work hard and earn money so both sons can study like younger brother-in-law pass the imperial exams and not have to struggle like we do. Daniel Zhou was determined to confront us. He brought Peony back, shamelessly begging to stay. Peony, heavily pregnant, stared at us with tears in her eyes. Mother-in-law was nearly furious to death. The two of them were truly pitiful. They had neither money nor grain. Over the past few months, younger brother-in-law occasionally gave them some money, but younger brother-in-law didn't have much to spare himself, so they survived on coarse black bread and wild vegetable porridge. Daniel Zhou was now so thin he was just skin and bones. No wonder he'd thrown all shame to the wind. Peony looked especially haggard, with sunken eyes that were quite unsettling. Mother-in-law didn't completely turn them away. She made 2 bowls of noodles for them. They ate like starving ghosts reincarnated, finishing the food in the blink of an eye. Daniel Zhou, Mom, I want another bowl. Mother-in-law rolled her eyes and made them another large bowl. Jean Dan and Tai Dan watched them curiously. Mother-in-law took the chance to lecture them. See, this is the price of acting without thinking. You must learn from this and be more careful in the future. I said, remember, the most important thing in life is to have the skills to stand on your own. Your father has no skills, yet he still wants love and freedom. If you have skills, you can have everything. Tai Dan, Mom, what kind of skills? The skill to make money. Tai Dan, does Grandma know how to make money? Me, Grandma farms and sells crops to earn money. She raises pigs, chickens, and ducks. Selling them brings in cash too. Eggs and duck eggs we can eat ourselves or sell for extra income. Grandma is incredibly capable, keeping our household in perfect order. She loves you all dearly, so you should care for her and honor her in the future. Tai Dan, I'll give Grandma tasty treats. But what about father? He always calls younger brother-in-law father. Correcting him is useless. He stubbornly believes whoever treats him well and spends time with him is his father. Daniel Zhou hung his head in shame. He thought the question was about him. I said, he studies and reads, aiming to pass the imperial exams for an official salary. If he fails, he can teach and still earn silver. Daniel Zhou grumbled. He was asking about me. Why are you talking about Ernyo? Tai Dan, I was asking about my father. You're not my father. Daniel Zhou, nonsense. If I'm not your father, who is? Tai Dan, frightened, moved closer to younger brother-in-law. Mother-in-law snapped, scare my grandson again, and you'll go without dinner. Daniel Zhou, Luna Lu, how are you raising the child? Is this any way to behave? I said, you don't act like a father yourself. And you're asking me? Mother-in-law said, you should leave after you eat. There's been no peace since you returned. Daniel Zhou stiffened his neck. I'm staying. Mother-in-law said, there's no place for you here anymore. Daniel Zhou refused to leave. When mother-in-law picked up the broom, he ran off with Peony. But it's annoying how he keeps coming over for meals every few days. And he always acts like we never signed the divorce agreement. The nerve. I started a business in town. The townhouse has a shop in the front and living quarters in the back. There are 4 rooms. Younger brother-in-law occupies 1 room, and Jean Dan and I share another. The steam bun shop now sells buns from morning till night, and I also set up a stall selling noodles. The buns are prepared in the middle of the night. The noodle broth is also simmered overnight. During the day, I make and cook the noodles. Maybe it's my skill, or maybe it's just good luck, but my business is doing quite well. Eventually, the noodle business even surpassed the steamed bun business, but I couldn't handle it all alone. Soon, mother-in-law came to help me, bringing Tai Dan along. For the household chores, we hired an aunt from our clan to assist. Unable to find anyone at home, Daniel Zhou came to town. When he saw our shop, his eyes turned red with envy. With many customers, we were swamped and had no time to deal with him. This time, he didn't wear a pitiful expression. He bowed his head and said, Mom, I was wrong. To be honest, if Jean Dan or Tai Dan grew up and caused such trouble, I'd surely soften my heart. They were once so small and soft, growing up in my arms. Even if they made mistakes, how could I bear to truly cut ties with them? So I thought mother-in-law would also relent and let Daniel Zhou return. But mother-in-law sighed, knowing you're wrong is enough. Go live your life well. There's no reason to always depend on your mother. Just stop your drinking, gambling, and womanizing from now on. Daniel Zhou was incredulous. Mom, you don't want me back. Didn't we agree during the division that I'd stay with Yaya? Daniel Zhou cried out in frustration. Who's Yaya? They used to call me Madame Lu before. I said firmly, I am Yaya. Daniel Zhou looked at me as if seeing a savior. Luna Lu, I was wrong. I've cut ties with Peony. The child in her belly isn't mine. I'm back now. Let's reconcile. You need a husband, and the children need a father. Jean Dan spoke up. I don't need a father. I have mom and grandma, and uncle cares for me too. Tai Dan added, I have a father, and I don't want you. Me, I don't need a husband either. Daniel Zhou sat there for a long while. We all ignored him and went about our business as usual, yet he kept coming back every few days. It was endlessly annoying. A matchmaker came to propose a marriage for me. The suitor was also from town. He ran a pastry shop, also in the food business. His wife had passed away, and he had a son and a daughter. He was fairly good looking too. Daniel Zhou happened to be there at the time. He snapped, Lu sure married me. She's my woman. She won't remarry. Hearing this, I was utterly disgusted and deliberately contradicted him. I will remarry. Let me make this clear. We're done. The matchmaker beamed and said, Splendid. If you're willing, I'll go relay this to Boss Wong right away. With that, she scurried off in a flash. I hadn't even finished speaking, but seeing Daniel Zhou's expression, I held my tongue. He looked utterly devastated, as if he actually cared about me. He was just hungry. Back when he had a full stomach, he acted all high and mighty. Watching him like this, I couldn't help but feel a bit smug. That evening, as I was getting my two sons ready for bed, my mother-in-law called me over to her room for a talk. Puzzled, I followed her. She asked, You want to marry Boss Wong? I shook my head. I don't want to remarry. I just want to raise Jean Dan and Tai Dan. Mother-in-law looked troubled, then said, Actually, you see, my eldest son is no good, but there's still the second son. Mother-in-law, how about you marry Ernyo? Ernyo is Jean Dan and Tai Dan's biological uncle, and has always been good to them. He treats you well too. We're all family and know each other inside out. After marriage, life wouldn't be much different from before. I was shocked, but younger brother-in-law is preparing for the imperial exams. Wouldn't marrying me hold him back? Mother-in-law rolled her eyes. Does having a rural old mother like me hold him back too? Her words were utterly earth-shattering. I actually had wondered before why it wasn't younger brother-in-law who married me. At least he has a future ahead, and he's considerate and kind to my children. I never imagined mother-in-law would now suggest I could marry younger brother-in-law. Marrying him would, of course, be wonderful. My son and I wouldn't have to separate. We'd all still be one family. I wouldn't need to rely on my former sister-in-law's status to share in younger brother-in-law's future success. Even if he doesn't excel in imperial exams, he's a good man, hardworking, kind to children, and willing to play with them. No matter how you look at it, he's a decent person. So, when my mother-in-law said this, I immediately replied, I'm willing, afraid that if I answered too late, this prime opportunity would slip away. My mother-in-law clapped her hands. I just love your decisiveness. We were both quite pleased. I asked again, but wouldn't younger brother-in-law be unwilling? It was his suggestion. Why would he be unwilling? My marriage with younger brother-in-law was settled. It was already decided that I would marry him. Now, when I see him, I still feel a bit awkward, but younger brother-in-law is very outgoing and even gave me a silver hairpin. I also bought fabric to make new clothes for him. The wedding will be held in the village. We plan to wait until younger brother-in-law finishes his exams before holding it, but we've started preparing everything necessary. The house needs renovation and expansion. Since we're earning money, naturally, we want better living conditions. Besides, it's like a new wedding, a fresh start. Daniel Zhou came to me again. Even Aaron Yo is getting married. Do you think it's appropriate for you to still live with them? Without any proper status. You should hurry and tell mother that we've reconciled. I asked curiously, what about Peony? Daniel Zhou pressed his lips together, then finally told the truth. She said the child belongs to a wealthy merchant. She thought he wouldn't return, so she tricked me into believing the child was mine. He held his head, saying painfully, I never expected women out there to be such deceivers. Luna Lu, you're still the best. At that moment, Aaron Yo arrived, holding half a watermelon. He said to me, Mother bought this for us to enjoy while it's fresh. Then he looked at Daniel Zhou and asked, Brother, remember to come to Yaya and my wedding. There'll be lots of delicious food that day. You can eat your fill. Daniel Zhou looked utterly confused. Who's wedding with you? Yaya's younger brother, in-law said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. He was still holding my hand, lecturing Daniel Zhou. Bro, if you don't want such a good wife like Yaya, I'll take her. Mom said, we shouldn't let outsiders benefit. After understanding, Daniel Zhou roared angrily, she's your sister. In-law, how can you marry her? Exactly, because she's my sister. In-law, I want to marry her. This is called keeping the blessings in the family. Daniel Zhou immediately raised his hand to hit him. Younger brother. In-law said, if you hit me, I'll tell Mom to hit you. Daniel Zhou stopped. Younger brother. In-law continued, bro, wake up. Even if Yaya doesn't marry me, she won't reconcile with you. If you really want to keep her, bless us. After all, she'll still be in our family. Daniel Zhou, you're despicable. Marrying your own sister. In-law, are you even human? Younger brother. In-law, bro, when you married Peony, I didn't say anything. I even gave you money for meals. How can you say that about me? Daniel Zhou was at a loss for words. He realized we were really going to marry and started crying. He cried pitifully. He asked his mother, In-law, she's clearly my wife. The children are mine too. Why is it that, in the end, even though we're all in the same household, I'm left with nothing? Now Daniel Zhou has returned. His mother, in-law, had him help with farm work in the village, raise poultry, and oversee the construction of the house. Jean Dan and Tai Dan call both him and the younger brother in-law dad, but the two children are clearly closer to the younger brother in-law. Every time, Daniel Zhou looks utterly heartbroken. He probably feels like he doesn't belong in this family. His mother, in-law said, I told you not to mess up, but you insisted. It's fine. Live and learn. Mom, I've lost everything. His mother, in-law slapped him across the face. Wake up. You win some, you lose some. Don't you understand that? Now, go to work. Daniel Zhou covered his face and ran off. The younger brother, in-law, passed the imperial examination and became a scholar. Our wedding proceeded as scheduled. People joked, it's quite something. Luna Lu marrying the younger brother, in-law, bringing along the kids and even the mother, in-law. Mother, in-law said, these are all joyous occasions for our family. Let's all go drink. Extra chapter. Mother, in-law. Lady Qian was reborn. In her previous life, her son wanted a divorce agreement to marry a courtesan. She scolded and beat him, but it was useless. Her son stole and sold the family ox to redeem Peony. Her daughter, in-law Luna Lu, stole 2 bags of white rice from the house to sell as business capital. Though furious, she could no longer control them. Luna Lu left the Zhou family. The children remained with Lady Qian. Daniel Zhou and Peony lived comfortably enough. At least they weren't reduced to eating wild vegetable porridge. Luna Lu's business flourished more and more. Her life grew increasingly prosperous. She established a female-headed household, buying both a shop and a residence. She returned to claim her 2 sons. Lady Qian had gone back to her Ningjiak natal family at that time. Her elderly mother had passed away, but after just 3 days away, she returned to find her world collapsed. Daniel Zhou sold his 2 grandsons to Luna Lu for 20 taels of silver. They even went to the village head to have it witnessed. The children went with their mother. Lady Qian fell ill from anger. After recovering, her health was never the same. Her chest always felt tight and painful. In her poor mental state, she didn't know what Daniel Zhou and Peony were up to. Peony gave birth to a son who looked neither like her nor Daniel Zhou. Daniel Zhou started visiting brothels again. Using Luna Lu's money, he frequented the brothels. After the brothels, he'd go to the gambling den. Bad habits took root. The wealthy merchant returned. Peony ran off with the merchant, taking her son. Daniel Zhou fell into despair and lost 150 taels gambling. For a farming family, this was an enormous sum. The loan sharks cut off 2 of his fingers and sent him home to raise the money. Running away wasn't an option. The monk may run away, but the temple remains. Lady Qian sold the house, the land, and the livestock, bankrupting herself, yet still couldn't repay the debt. As a mother, she couldn't bear to watch her son die. She swallowed her pride and went to Luna Lu. Luna Lu didn't say much, but lent her the money. The funds for Aaron Zhou's exam in the prefectural city were also borrowed from Luna Lu. Fortunately, Aaron Zhou performed well, and wealthy merchants sent him silver to build connections, making repayment easy. Aaron Zhou left his hometown for the capital to take the imperial exams. Lady Qian and her eldest son stayed home. They lived in a thatched hut. Daniel Zhou heard that trading at the northern frontier, selling southern goods up north and northern goods down south, could turn a profit. He went, despite Lady Qian's objections. Over a year passed without his return. Aaron Zhou wrote saying he hadn't passed the exams in the capital and would wait 3 years to try again. He wouldn't be coming back home. He supported himself by copying books for money. Lady Qian's health had declined greatly. She was often ill and had lost her vitality. An autumn rain came, and she fell ill again. There was no money to hire a doctor or buy medicine. It was only when Luna Lu returned with her 2 children to deliver mid-autumn festival gifts that she discovered Lady Qian was ill and promptly called for a doctor. Lady Qian felt she had wronged her. Though Lady Qian had given her a few taels of silver when she left, the Zhou family had still treated her unjustly and hadn't allowed her to take the children. Luna Lu didn't particularly like Lady Qian, but after venturing out on her own and broadening her horizons, her heart had grown more generous. Since Lady Qian was genuinely good to her 2 children, Luna would care for her no matter what. The 2 children also adored Lady Qian. Luna was a devoted mother and naturally indulged her children's wishes. Lady Qian was taken to Luna Lu's home. Luna had not remarried. Earlier, when Daniel Zhou came looking for her, she drove him out. Lady Qian's health was poor, and her 2 sons still hadn't returned. She helped Luna Lu look after her 2 grandsons, cooked meals, and occasionally assisted at Luna's shop. Her health improved significantly. Watching her 2 grandsons gave her hope. However, her heart condition still flared up occasionally. What truly crushed Lady Qian was the news of Daniel Zhou's death. On her deathbed, only Luna Lu and her 2 sons were by Lady Qian's side. She never expected that Luna would be the one to care for her in her final years. These 2 years in her home had been very peaceful. Luna Lu was a kind-hearted person. Why had she ever let her go back then? Given another chance, she would choose to stay with her daughter-in-law. In her previous life, Lady Qian was buried before Aaron Zhou returned. He finally passed the imperial exams, but missed seeing his mother one last time. He was grateful for Luna's care. Having always admired her, he proposed to Luna. Whether in their past life or this one, they ended up together.